Isaiah Neyor just got the George Kittle seal of approval. What's up? Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. It's the downtime of the off season, so we cover things like podcasts and social media posts. We're not going to talk about Ayuk today unless you guys want us to. We're going to talk about George Kittle instead. He went on Bussin' with the Boys. He does that fairly frequently. It was a 3-hour podcast, which we listened to and watched because we love George Kittle and the 49ers. And he said so many interesting things. He said some interesting things sprinkled in the 3 hours. One of them was unprompted. He brought up Isaiah Neyor, the undrafted free agent, and just kind of like went off on him. He's like, he's a freak. He's huge. We were watching his clips over and over and over again in the tight end room because he could cover nine and a half yards in 2 strides. And he didn't exactly know his name. He was like 14. 14 is a freak. And he's definitely going to make the practice squad. My question to you, that's according to Kittle. My question to you is, do you think there's a chance he makes a 53 like this year?
First of all, Kittle was pretending. I guess it's not cool to know the undrafted guys' names.
College, or also it's like a Big Ten thing, right?
Yeah, he definitely knew his name, and he definitely was pretending not to know his name because all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know his name. It begins with an N. It's like, what? So he knew his name. He was just trying to play cool guy. But I do find it interesting. I don't think he'll make the roster. Unless there's maybe an injury or two. But, you're not going to have Demarcus Robinson. You're not going to have Debo. You don't have Ayuk until, to start the year. So you got 3, so who do you have? And you're probably going to have, I would say, 5 receivers minimum, maybe 6. So there will be an opportunity there if Neyor plays really, really well. And he does have all these freaky traits, right? He's 6'4", he runs 4.4 flat, he's got 36-inch arms, 40-inch vertical. He's got, several of the traits that you would be like, wow, and he's got them all. So, but he's very raw. He body catches still kind of like a high school receiver would. And so I will say, unless they coach him up amazingly, he's headed towards the practice squad.
I agree. I do think, let's say this. I do think it's significant that he's on the radar of the veterans, the guys who really, because I kind of look at the Niners as a bit of an oligarchy. Like there's Kyle and John and Saleh, but there's like 7 or 8, 5 or 6 veterans who have some sort of a say in the direction of the team. And I think Kittle's definitely one of them. So if he's impressed, that means probably Juszczyk's impressed and other people as well. So that's a good start. I would just say that, we've seen him as well. And while he's very physically impressive, he is big, he is fast. That translates. I think we also see why the production hasn't exactly translated yet for him. I mean, he hasn't been lighting it up on the practice field the way, Jacob Cowing or Jordan Watkins have been. It seems like he's a big time project. He's not necessarily a slick route runner. And if he is going to make the team, his quickest route to the 53-man roster might be special teams as like a gunner if, say, Junior Bergen doesn't make it as a returner.
I mean, they call these positions skill positions for a reason. This guy, it's like the same reason that I can't tell you a running back's great just because he's a certain height, certain weight, certain speed. It's the same thing about receiver. I can't tell you a receiver's great just because he's a certain height, certain weight, certain arm length, certain speed. It's a skill position, and it's a skill, and I think this kid's got potential, and the physical traits are off the charts, but that's all it is. It's just potential, and it's really going to come down to, it's not the biggest, fastest running back or the biggest, fastest receiver. It's the guy who's the best, and slow backs sometimes are better than fast backs, and slower receivers are sometimes better than guys. I mean, Jerry Rice was way, way better than James Jett. James Jett was way, way faster than Jerry Rice. So, these things matter, and speed's nice. I'd rather have guy with traits than no traits. But I would say Isaiah Neyor's a huge long shot, And I even, I did a video today where I was talking about how the Niners, should look at Malachi Corley because, there was an article written by Rich Cimini in ESPN on the Jets saying that Robert Saleh sent a note to Joe Douglas during the draft saying Malachi Corley no matter what. Like they were, and it was kind of a joke run on the, I think it was a run on the draft day Sonny Weaver, Vontae Mack, no matter what line from that movie. But still, it just kind of illustrates that they really liked Malachi Corley, and now they're not there anymore, and the Jets are looking at a depth chart where Corley's sitting like 7th or 8th, and there's a very good chance he gets cut, and has a lot of the similar traits that Debo has. So I would say maybe it won't be a big name receiver, but I could see a Malachi Corley at the cut down, either coming to the Niners after he gets cut, or if they see he's going to be cut and they offer a day 3 pick for him.
Well, remember, Ayuk's going to probably start the season on the PUP list.
Right.
Demarcus Robinson probably start the season suspended. That's 2 wide receivers. So
could be an injury. Might be an injury.
Yeah, so they'll have Pearsall, Jennings, Watkins, Cowing. That's 4 wide receivers week 1. Junior Bergen, if he makes the team, I mean, there's definitely an opportunity for Isaiah Neyor to be on the 53-man roster week 1.
Oh, Grant, if Isaiah Neyor looks in training camp, if he, the brief glimpses of greatness that he showed in minicamp, if he shows that with any consistency at all this summer, he's going to make the team. I just don't. I'm kind of questioning whether he's going to have the ability to show that, but who knows? Who knows? Sometimes you get with the right.
He's going to need to be great on special teams. He's going to need to make a few plays in camp and maybe in preseason too, and we haven't seen that yet.
But he is coming off of his best collegiate season at Nebraska. He kind of put things together at Nebraska, so maybe he can keep that momentum going. I mean, it's gonna be. I'll say this: if you buy tickets to go to training camp, you're gonna find this kid easily because he has a Randy Moss type build. He's wearing number 14, and you're gonna see some movement and jumping ability and some length and speed that you haven't seen in a long time. So he's going to be impressive looking. It's just a matter of exactly how refined and ready is he to contribute.
And I think it's pretty clear, like the Niners, the way they're constructed on offense, their top 3 targets in the passing game, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, they're more short, intermediate targets. And so if defenses are going to spend all their attention on those 3 guys to take them away, it'd be nice to have some really explosive 4th or 5th options who could beat you for a touchdown from anywhere on the field if you lose track of them. And I think that's Watkins, that's Cowing, that's Neyor. And he's the one with the size. He's not going to be a starting wide receiver on this team, but if he could be a really explosive 5th option, that's, I think, what the Niners are looking for anyway. So he's got a chance. It's him against a guy who's 5'8". They're both explosive, but this guy's got a leg up.
He reminds me a little bit of a younger version of Chris Conley, who just retired, right? And why did Chris Conley get a spot on the Niner rosters? Because he was an absolute menace as a gunner on special teams. And if Neyor, with that size and that speed, can be a factor on special teams, that could get him on the roster.
More from George Kittle on the Bussin' with the Boys. It was Taylor Lewin asked him, "You think Kyle Juszczyk's a Hall of Famer?" And just before he even finished the question, yes, 9 Pro Bowls, first team All-Pro once, second team All-Pro once. I mean, it's just the resume speaks for itself. Do you agree? Is Juszczyk going to be in the Hall of Fame?
No. I mean, if all of a sudden every team in football used nothing but 4 and 5 wides, and George Kittle was one of 3 tight ends left in the game, and he, because of that, made the Pro Bowl every year, either as a starter or as an alternate, would that make George Kittle better than he is now? No, just make him more kind of specialized than he is now. During Juszczyk's career, his position became specialized to the point where they're basically just, he's got to beat out 1 or 2 guys, and then all of a sudden he's a Pro Bowler. So, I mean, he's not even the best 49er fullback. I mean, I would say if you ask most Niner fans who are, 50 or older, they're going to tell you that Tom Rathman was a better, more impactful fullback, as was Roger Craig, than Kyle Juszczyk. So I would say
he's the best fullback of the last 10 years, but that's because there's been 8 fullbacks the last 10 years. I went back and looked. Do you know who the last fullback was that got inducted in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know, but I'll say this. If Kyle Juszczyk makes the Hall of Fame before Lorenzo Neal, I will riot.
Well, I mean, there's bigger names than Lorenzo Neal. Like Larry Zonka is the last fullback who got inducted in the Hall of Fame. That was in 1987. I wasn't even born yet. Mike Allstott is not in the Hall of Fame. I can't believe it. He had more than 7,000 yards from scrimmage. He had 71 touchdowns. Juszczyk has 24 touchdowns in 12 years. I mean, come on.
No, it's not a Hall of Famer. 2 touchdowns a year is not a Hall of Famer. He's a very good NFL player. He's a very effective fullback. I'm not trying. I mean, neither of us are trying to besmirch his reputation as a player, but we're talking about the Hall of Fame. No, absolutely not. He's not a Hall of Famer. I mean, come on. If he's a Hall of Famer, Roger Craig's a Hall of Famer, and Roger Craig's not a Hall of Famer. So we're gonna have a Hall of Fame that has Kyle Juszczyk but doesn't have Roger Craig. Come on.
Like
really?
Joe Staley's not in the Hall of Fame. Frank Gore. I mean, I don't know if they're eligible yet, but there's a whole lot of people that would have to I'm all for Juszczyk making to the Hall of Fame, but after about like 800 people. Sorry.
Behind a guy like O'Neal, who blocked for Eddie George and blocked for Corey Dillon and blocked for LaDainian Tomlinson. And, I mean, to me, I don't even think Kyle Juszczyk is that great of a blocker. I mean, he's not a strong runner. He's an ordinary receiver. I mean, I shouldn't say ordinary. He made that amazing catch from Purdy in the playoffs 2 years ago, where he got both toes down. So I mean, he's a very good, useful utility player. But I would say he's not a Hall of Famer. I would say he's a very good player.
All right, fair enough. Last thing from the Kittle interview, he was asked about Debo Samuel. And first, he sort of defended Debo Samuel, like, oh, you saw that video about him and that install from OTAs. It wasn't really fair. People taking shots at him. He's going to be really good. Then he started going in like, Debo's going to be really good this year. Just wait till he put the pads on. You put him in that offense with that quarterback who makes everyone better. And then you have Terry McLaurin on the outside and Zach Ertz over the middle. He seemed almost like jealous. Like, man, that team sounds great. That seems like a lot of fun. He seemed very bullish on Debo Samuel in 2025. I'm not a football player. George Kittle, I take seriously. What do you think of George Kittle sort of predicting big things for Debo Samuel this year? Do you agree?
I mean, George Kittle's a good friend. That's what I would say to that. George Kittle's a good friend. So he's a friend to these guys, so he's gonna back his friends. But, I mean, I'm looking at Debo's game log. He's got a 96-yard game last year against the Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, he really looked good against the Dolphins. He had 9 targets, 7 catches, 96 yards. Great game. He had a really good game in October against the Seahawks, where he had 5 targets, 3 catches for 102 yards. He had a really good game against Minnesota, where he had 8 catches for 110 yards. He had a really good game the year before against Philly. But around those really good games are, other games. 1 catch for 11 yards against Arizona. No catches at all in the Kansas City game. Probably knocked out early. 22 yards on 4 catches against Seattle. 1 catch for 21 yards against Green Bay. 4 catches for 20 yards against Buffalo. I mean, 3 catches for 16 yards against the Rams. 1 catch for 5 yards against the Lions. I mean, so he has more games where he's a non-factor than he has games where he's a major factor. And I think, he's good for 2 or 3 good games, but his big-time speed is gone. He's not a great route runner. His hands are pretty ordinary. And as time goes on, he loses speed. He loses explosiveness. He's just a guy. He's not a guy that's going to win one-on-one against man coverage on the outside. Nope. He's a gadget player, and he's a run-through-you kind of a player. And unfortunately, when you get to a certain age, and that he's at that age, 29, if you've run through people for 3 years, 4 years like he has, suddenly you don't got a whole lot left. So he had 51 catches last year for 3 touchdowns. I'll say this year he'll have 71 touchdowns or 71 receptions for 6 touchdowns. But it's not going to be some epic double-digit touchdown performance. I don't see that.
No, but he could be. I mean, he's going to be one of their top 3 options along with McLaurin and Ertz in the passing game. And even if he's like their 3rd option in the passing game, which he probably should be at this point in his career, I think it's going to be interesting to see if he's more of a running back for Washington. I think it was definitely clear that there was no way the Niners could use him anymore where he would be effective for them. But on that team in a different scheme, playing running back with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, where it's like when Debo was in the backfield for the Niners, it was so obvious he was getting the ball and there wasn't like a lot of anything else to look for the defense. But if it's him next to Jaden Daniels, that's a different look. That's a 2-back set. And I don't know, maybe Washington can sort of like revive the running back version of Debo Samuel, because I think the wide receiver version is pretty much kaput. Like you said, he can't get open. He can't beat man-to-man coverage. You could throw him a swing pass or a screen, and I'm sure they will. But I wonder if his impact will come as a running back. And that would be interesting because that team, like their leading rusher last year was Jaden Daniels. If all of a sudden Debo can have this 1 year as a running back again for them, I don't know. I mean, they're so close to being the team to beat in the NFC. I wonder if it would hurt if they won and Debo Samuel was like a key contributor of a Super Bowl championship team. It would hurt.
You know, it's hard to know how they're going to use him, though, because, I mean, they in the backfield, they do have Brian Robinson Jr., they do have Austin Eckler. They also drafted this Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who's pretty good. So, I mean, they've got some good running backs. And then at receiver, I mean, it's a motley crew. I mean, you've got Debo, you've got hurt Noah Brown, you have McLaurin, who's holding out for a contract and is not happy. Then you have McCaffrey's little brother, who's kind of a special teamer. They have a kid named Jalen Lane from Vatech, who's got a lot of speed. They signed Michael Gallup away from Dallas, so he's whatever he's got, his body's broken up a little bit. They have KJ Osborne, veteran receiver. I mean, it's a bunch of guys. I don't know that especially if McLaurin, his head is not right. I don't know of how great their receivers really are.
Well, we'll come back to them in a minute. John Lynch said something recently that was interesting. He was asked by Matt Mayoko what the goals were for 2025. And he was like, every team's goal is to win a Super Bowl and every team's disappointed when they don't. But, you got to remember, having said that, we're young. We're really young. We had to go young. We had to go cheap. We're going to take our lumps. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to learn from them. And, when that process is over with, watch out. How do you feel about that?
It's ominous. It's an ominous quote because, I mean, it's almost like saying, hey, judge us on a curve. Don't judge us too harshly. Judge us with a curve and acknowledge that we're all kind of inexperienced. I mean, the 49ers, yes, they have a young defense. Who knows? C.J. West, Alfred Collins, Mikael Williams, Nick Martin, Upton Stout, Marquise Siegel, they may all wind up starting at some point this year on the defense, which would be a ridiculous amount of youth on your defense. But at the same time, you've got this core of a team that has Bosa in his prime. He's not going to be better in 2 years than he is now. Neither's Fred, neither's Kittle, neither's Trent. They're all borderline Hall of Fame players who are probably in the twilight of their career, and you're going to, in the midst of that, you're going to have the most cap room of any team in the league, unspent cap space, when you have other needs. So, I mean, it's like, what's going on here? What's the plan? Why in your go year would you not, look to roll over your cap? I mean, what's the goal here? Is the goal to win a Super Bowl, or is the goal to compete in all these soccer leagues they're in and just compete in the NFL and not really win. Because right now it looks like they're competing, but they're also have an arm tied behind their back because they've got so much money that they look like they're intent on rolling over to next year's cap. So what is this about? What's the goal? Is the goal to, compete and save Jed money, or is the goal to get that 6th Lombardi?
Well put. My question to you is, do you think they're putting this arm behind their back? Do you think this is Lynch's idea? You think Lynch approached Kyle and was like, look, this is how we're going to win number 6. Cheaper, younger, lumps. Or do you think they had to sit down with Jed York and maybe John and Denise, and they said, look, guys, here's how we're doing it this year. Make it work. What do you think?
Oh, I totally think the Yorks dictated the budget to Lynch and Shanahan. I absolutely do. I don't know why, other than their soccer teams and fiscal prudence and all these different things. I mean, the NFL cuts these teams a massive check. So the revenue sharing check covers everything, pretty much everything. So they're not really spending a lot of their own money, period. But so I don't necessarily understand the passion for fiscal prudence, but this thing can also get away from you on the other side where you can start hemorrhaging money, even with the revenue, the revenue gain that you get from the general fund. So I don't think it's about Lynch. I don't think it's about Shanahan. I think it's about the owners dictating to them, hey, you spent $20 million of our money on Javon Hargrave. You spent a lot of money on some really questionable things. We're going to have a belt tightening here. And I don't know if the Yorks have lost their conviction in, Shanahan and Lynch. They would, I'm sure, publicly say the opposite. But, money talks and your actions talk. And, you can say talk is cheap and you can say anything, but what you do really determines your plan and your philosophy. And right now they have the second most cap room of anybody in the NFL, and yet they're claiming they're inside their Super Bowl window. So there's not a lot of, those things don't necessarily, make sense together.
And it's like, some people would say, well, hold on, the Niners are spending a lot of money this offseason, Brock, Fred, Kittle, and that's true. But we're talking about like spending money on outside free agents to make the team better, to put the team over the top. And this is things that they did in the past. They brought in all kind of veterans the last few years to put the team over the top. And maybe the owners feel like, we didn't really get a very good return on investment on any of those guys. So money better spent would be, on leads, because if we invest a lot of money in players there, then they stay in the English Premier League. We make all kind of money and our portfolio goes up. Maybe they just feel like there's a better investment opportunity putting cash over there. I just think it's a bad look for Jed York, who's for years said that the only difference between him and his uncle Eddie is the fact that Eddie didn't really have to worry about a salary cap and Jed does. To have $46 million in cap space and not use it and to roll it over to next year when your core is getting old, I think it's a bad look. And I just can't tell me that it's a football decision. That's a smart move for the 49ers. And that's why I think both of us are instantly going over to like, well, soccer has to be involved in the decision-making somehow because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. Many NFL personnel people, from Lynch himself to Eric DeCosta, who runs the Ravens, to Howie Roseman, who runs the Eagles, they all described this last 2025 draft as one of the deeper drafts in years. Well, if you have one of the deeper drafts, that means that guys that are going to wind up falling to day 3 that ordinarily wouldn't, and guys are going to be undrafted that ordinarily would get drafted. And you chose this year with this incredibly deep draft to really almost sit out the undrafted market. I think I saw a ranking that the 49ers were 26th or 28th in undrafted free agent spending. And that this is an area where the Niners have absolutely kicked ass and unearthed all kinds of gems, from Raheem Mostert to Jeff Wilson to Kevin Givens to Azeez Al-Shaair, and the list goes on and on. It's a very fruitful market, and it's a relatively inexpensive market. And to sit it out to save pennies was illogical and ill-advised, and I think a bad decision, and not a decision that was rooted in anything that's football related.
We're seeing more and more owners of sports teams in America become owners of other teams in other sports. Maybe abroad. And I think it's fair for fans of these teams to wonder how the other teams in the portfolio affect the team that they're rooting for, because I think that there's very few 49er fans who are actually fans of Leeds United. Like, we also know the Red Sox ownership group also owns Liverpool, and they recently signed Florian Wirtz, who of course I've never heard of, but he's a big deal soccer player, and they had to give him a ton of money. And coincidentally, they just traded away Rafael Devers, and I'm sure the Red Sox would say those things have nothing to do with each other. Those are completely separate universes. But does anyone believe that? Does that make Red Sox fans feel better? And so when Niner fans are looking at, hey, $46 million in cap space, Jalen Ramsey just hanging out, he might be pretty good. But no, we're not going to spend that. And like, Leeds United is making moves. What? How can they not be? It seems like it would be the biggest coincidence of all time.
Well, and then you didn't even throw in the major factor, which is that there are people that want to get in sports, and they're willing to get in at any price. The Time Warner people who own the Dodgers, just bought the Lakers for $10 billion. I mean, $1 billion. Dr. Buss bought that thing in the 70s for like $57 million or something like that. And now he's cashing out to the tune of $10 billion. And so my Red Sox friends, who are, family members who are back east, who are big Red Sox fans, said that, yeah, this is absolutely, most likely, this Devers deal is probably the kind of deal that you make when you're looking to pare the thing down and sell it. They've won their 4 rings. They've made their mint of money, but it's a paper gain until they sell. And so some of these owners that have realized, exponential growth off their investment are dreaming the obvious dream of what can we buy with our incredible newfound riches. And so I think you are going to see a lot of the bigger name teams, not necessarily the Niners per se, but it could be. But I think you're going to see some high profile franchise sales here off the heels of the Dodgers sale. Millionaires and billionaires dreaming the ultimate dream of, getting $10 billion of gain off of the price that they paid. So I think, especially, as I think the dream is a lot less about winning the championship when you do have, you have multiple franchises in different leagues at different spots. Suddenly it becomes more about your bottom line and your overall portfolio. That is what takes precedence. So I hope that's not the case. I hope the 49ers ownership is still passionate about that 6th Lombardi, but I kind of question whether they've ever been as passionate about any Lombardi trophy as Eddie D was.
You just got me so excited for the future, because I feel like you just brought up that I don't even know if you meant to do it, but there's a possibility. Look at all these teams that are selling. The Lakers sold. Like, are we sure the 49ers won't sell at some point in the future? They just sold 6.2% of the team. They're heavily invested in soccer, which is a bigger sport globally than football. It's not even close. I mean, where's the growth over the next 10 to 15, 20 years? American football or European? They know it. Maybe they feel like they've tapped out, American football and what the 49ers can be. Sell it now, get $9 billion, and have nothing but growth and prosperity in the future in Europe. I don't know, maybe not, but makes you think. I don't know. They're really into soccer right now.
Well, then,
quick,
another thing
the other day calling soccer the greatest game, the world's greatest game. I was like, hold on, you can't favor one of your kids over the other. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the dream of soccer is dreamt by more people than the dream of football, because soccer, all it takes is a ball in an empty field. You don't even need to have a flat field. I mean, if you have absolutely nothing, you can still play soccer, where you can't play football if you have absolutely nothing. You have to have equipment. You have to have relative wealth. You have to have leagues. You have to have coaching.
You have to have hella fucking people around that all play different positions and have different body types.
Yeah. Right. But soccer is like, it's the international sport because of how accessible it is to every economic class. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as far as the 49ers are concerned, I don't know if they would ever sell the franchise like 100% of the franchise. But if they wanted to still be a celebrity owner, they could carve out some nice percentage and still get cash out to the tune of billions and still have the whatever, goes along with being an owner of an NFL team. You can keep your 2% and sell the rest off for billions of dollars and have your cake and eat it too. You're not making decisions about the head coach and GM anymore, but you're still technically an owner.
Sell. Okay, look, here's the thing. The Niners haven't won a Super Bowl, so there's not as much pressure to like win another one with this core, but they've kept this core together. And I can't help but compare the Niners to the Warriors because it feels like a little bit of a two-timeline situation. Not trying to get younger and cheaper. Warriors tried that. They have Stephen Curry. You have a responsibility to Stephen Curry to make as good of a team right now as you can with him on the books. Doesn't the same thing apply to George Kittle and Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey? And if it does, wouldn't Warrior fans get upset if they were $46 million under the cap with Steph Curry on the team? It's like, how can you do this, Joe Lega? Why are you being cheap? So that's where the Niners are now. Larry and I doing our best to sort of nudge the Yorks in the direction of spending. If they were watching right now and being like, you know what, Larry and Grant make some incredible points. We should spend this year. Who should they go out and get to put the team over the top?
Okay, first of all, the question of should they or shouldn't they? They should. Every single time you go to an NBA Finals, your franchise value shoots through the roof. Every single time you go to a World Series, your franchise value, goes through the roof. I'm upset the Niners haven't won a Super Bowl. You're upset the Niners haven't won a Super Bowl. But in reality, every time the Niners have gone to a Super Bowl, the value of their franchise skyrockets. So winning it is like really for the fans or for the media or for the people that are truly passionate about getting that ultimate prize. The owners win it whether they win that game or lose that game. They win. They win either way. They win more if they win it, but they still getting into the game is the victory. So, because that's what ultimately history shows vaults the franchise. As far as what the Niners need, I think they're really close. I don't believe Tim Kawakami where he's like, hey, you know what? It's going to be a bad year or, it's a rebuilding year. I don't see that. I see a wide open NFC, a wide open AFC, a wide open deal. So yeah. I think they need three pieces. They need another receiver because you can't lean on Debo, Ayuk, or DeMarcus Robinson. Debo's gone. That's for sure. I think they need another receiver. I think they need another defensive back. And I'm not sure which one, Grant, because they may need a safety, they may need a corner, they may need a slot, they may need an outside. That's why I threw out Jalen Ramsey because he can play them all. More than anything, the number one need, even though they've already invested in a lot, they need more defensive line because they need to rush the passer. They got a bunch of young DBs. If you want to go with Darrell Luter and Renardo Green and Demo Lenore and Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa, that's fine. That's great. They're all relative babies. You got to have a pass rush up front. And you added Huff, you added Mikael Williams, you added some tackles. I think they're a little bit better. But if you could get a Shamar Stewart, and I keep bringing this up because I watch Shamar Stewart, and the old saying, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Niner fans have a little bit of knowledge about Shamar Stewart, and so they've decided he sucks. But guess what? A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. He doesn't have tremendous sack production because they moved him. They played 4-eye, he played 5, he played 3 technique, he played edge. He was all over the place. He led them in pressures. He's awesome against the run. He practiced one day in Mobile, and the scouts were like, "Sit it out. You're set." This guy's a big-time player. I think he's significantly better than Mikael Williams, but either way, the Bengals, if they do not sign him or trade him in the next 10 days, they have until the 5th of August. If he's not traded on the 5th of August, they cannot trade him, and he goes back into the draft, most likely, and they cannot draft him again. So they're just going to lose him and get nothing for the 17th pick in the first round. So what I'm suggesting is call them every day between now and the 5th and say, here's Robert Beal. Here's a second-round pick. Here's a conditional 27 pick based on how well he does to cover yourself, and send him on over. And you put Shamar Stewart and Mikael Williams on this line with Huff and Bosa, I think then you can get away with Luter and all these young DBs on the back end. Shamar Stewart, I know he didn't have a lot of sacks, but remember this: Danielle Hunter had 4.5 sacks at LSU. Danielle Hunter has 100 career sacks in the NFL. Sack production, it means something. It doesn't mean everything.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like all those guys would be great. If they could get Shamar Stewart, of course. Why would you not? I think you're so close. The Niners have said that, last year was a fluke. They believe that they have a great core. Why would you not? And again, if Lynch says, well, we're going to take some lumps, that implies that there are X number of spots on the field in the starting lineup that they're not very confident about. It's not like they're saying, look, we got a bunch of young guys, but you don't know these players. We know them. They're going to be good. They're ready to go. He's like, we don't really know either. If that's how you feel, you have the cap space. Go get a free agent in each one of those positions and just hedge your bets. Why would you not do that? And again, I think we both feel like Lynch and Kyle would like to, and that the Yorks aren't really letting them, which is on the Yorks. I mean, you host the Super Bowl this year. You're spending tons of money to renovate Levi Stadium so that it's nice when the Super Bowl. Wouldn't you like your team to be on the field? Wouldn't that be a big thing for you? I just don't understand.
Be huge.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey.
Plus, it's going to be the entire Super Bowl week is going to be about the two teams in that game and you.
Yep.
So the conversations could be about the AFC rep, the NFC rep, and you. So people are going to be evaluating where you're at. And somebody in the chat here is asking the question. Chase says at 140, what are the Bengals and Shamar in disagreement about exactly? Okay, so what it is this, and it's a little dull, but it's a little dry, so I won't bore everybody with it. But there's contractual language that the Bengals have not had in any of their contracts that negates future guarantees to Shamar Stewart if he were to have a problem on or off the field. If he had an off-the-field issue, it could make his future payments voided. And if he has a problem on the field, a certain number of penalties or whatever, doesn't achieve a certain status level or success level, they want the ability to then go into the contract and wipe it away. They've never done it before. Some other teams have. He doesn't want to be the guinea pig. Last year's number 1 pick, Marius Mims, does not have that in his contract. And Shamar Stewart's agent saying, I don't want it in Shamar's contract either. So the Bengals are trying to establish a new precedent. Shamar ain't going for it. And either the Bengals are going to back away and tuck their tail between their legs and apologize and get this done, or he's moving on to a different team. And all I'm saying is, why not? Why can't that team be the Niners?
I love it. And I also feel like, why can't the Niners be the team that trades for Jalen Ramsey? And I think they're a good fit for a lot of reasons. One, he's expensive, which means a lot of other teams can't fit him in their salary cap. The Niners can. They have $46 million in cap space. Also, Robert Saleh coached him already. So did Gus Bradley. They drafted him in 2016 in Jacksonville. Yeah. I would imagine they'd love to have him again. He'd be good. This is just on Jed. You got to give the green light on this one. I mean, he's not what he used to be, but he's still really good. And we saw the success that Robert Saleh had the first time around with older corners, Richard Sherman, Jason Verrett. Then he left. D'Amico became the coordinator, Josh Norman. Man, this guy is better than all of them. And to your point, he can play nickel, he can play outside, he can play safety. Whatever you need him to do. Seems like such a no-brainer. It's just on Jed to say yes.
And when I asked Saleh, you were there after the mini camp, I'm like, hey, man, with the Jets, you had some serious dudes. Do you have any dudes here? And he's like, he didn't want to say. Well, believe me, if he had the next Sauce Gardner in this camp, he'd be like, yeah, man, we got this guy. Instead, he's like, let's wait till they put the pads on, because he knows he probably doesn't have dudes like that. And a guy like Ramsey, not only is Ramsey a great player, Ramsey's a smart player. And he's a really, really smart player who can play a number of different spots. And to me, the other thing is, you're weakening yourself trying to create a spot for Upton Stout. Okay, you drafted Upton Stout. That's great. You're going to move Demo Lenore, the best slot corner, out of the slot for a third-round draft choice who's 5'8" from Western Kentucky. This guy played in the Sun Belt Conference. He's totally unproven in the NFL. That guy is going to somehow move Demo to the outside. Now, if you have Ramsey can play the outside. He allows Demo to stay where he's best. And I'd rather have Demo where he's best, Ramsey where he's best, Renardo where he's best. If you have Ramsey and Demo inside, I think you've got a shot. I think you match up on the back end. And there's a lot of people saying, how about this guy? How about Justin Simmons? And how about Julian Blackmon and this and that? I think Ramsey's a better ad. Why? Because we really don't know, as we're sitting here on June 25th, where the hole is going to be. It might be at outside corner. It might be at slot corner. It might be at free safety. It might be at strong safety. It would be nice to get a guy like Ramsey who can play everywhere. And then you're covered. You're covered no matter what.
You brought up Lenore a minute ago. I want to go there. That's a really interesting topic. Robert Saleh comes back after, being gone for 4 years. He's never coached Diamador Lenore. Lenore has now become pretty much the best Niners cornerback they've drafted since Eric Davis in 1990. I mean, he's really established himself. He's got an extension, but really he made his money and his reputation in the slot. He's versatile. He can play outside too, but he played a lot in the slot. Steve Wilkes didn't want to play him there, didn't play him there much in the Super Bowl, cost the 49ers big time. Now Saleh's back, and his idea is to move Lenore outside full time. And I guess the thought process is he's a number one corner. He can handle it. And also he'll be better if he just has one job instead of two. Do you agree?
I think it's really, really hard to play that slot. You got the two-way break. You're basically a strong side linebacker against the run. So you got to be a real dog. You got to be a real tackler. And how many guys in the history of football are really, really good cover guys and good tacklers? Not very much, not very many. Mm-hmm. And you have one in Lenore who's a true dog who loves to hit, and he's got coverage ability, and he's so confident that he's not in any way, intimidated by the two-way break or all the really great slot receivers that, are all over this league. So I would say, you need a great slot corner. I think a great slot corner is more valuable than a great linebacker. I mean, a great slot corner. I mean, the Colts have Kenny Moore in the slot. He's fantastic. You don't see them moving him outside. When you have a great slot corner, I think that's such a strength that you keep them there. So they feel like Stout is going to be good against the run. But I mean, once again, Lenore is the number one graded out slot corner in pro football, and you're going to move him? I don't know. To me, that's questionable.
This is what Wilkes wanted to do in 2023. If you remember, when that season started, Lenore was outside, and the nickelback was Isaiah Oliver. And maybe it took a quarter to figure out, this is not going to work. This guy's an absolute liability, and they got Lenore in the slot pretty quick. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if Robert Saleh has the same epiphany rather quickly. Like, you could go with Trey Brown, you could go with Upton Stout, but how many times are you going to let those guys get burned before you say, you know what, we're just going to put Lenore in the slot because we know that he's excellent there.
I think it's going to be really interesting for the third year in a row to watch the Niners pare down their secondary. So 2 years ago, they had signed Isaiah Oliver because Steve Wilkes loved Isaiah Oliver, and they cut Deshaun Jameson, who they had added as an undrafted free agent, only to watch Jameson go to Carolina and outperform Oliver at a lesser price. And you would think they would have learned their lesson, but they didn't. Last year, they cut Sam Womack and kept Rock Ya-Sin and Isaac Yiadom, despite the fact that Womack was cheaper, younger, faster, and better. And then he went to Indy and played better than those guys. And now here we are. It's 3 years in a row. They have some intriguing young DBs in Darrell Luter, who was their 5th-round pick in 2023. And then Jacob Robinson, the BYU kid, had 11 interceptions career and runs in the 4.3s. Derek Canteen is a really interesting undrafted player as well that they signed. And yet, I've looked at the financial guarantees, Grant. I think there's a very, very good chance that the Niners are going to wind up cutting Jacob Robinson and Derek Canteen and giving roster spots to Saron Neal and Trey Brown because they've got $2.25 million tied up guaranteed in Saron Neal, and they've got $500,000 guaranteed tied up in Trey Brown, and they're gonna prioritize Jed's money over the best player for the 3rd year in a row, and they're going to wind up cutting good DBs over money issues for the 3rd year in a row. I hope it doesn't happen, but I almost guarantee that it will.
Yeah, it just seems like a way to save money. Like you signed Neyor at like nickelback price, but then you moved him over to the outside, which is a more expensive position, and then you're trying to get nickelbacks to fill in, which are cheaper, as opposed to trying to find that outside guy. I don't know. It just seems like play the guy at his best position. Joseph Ernberg says, Super Bowl bound this season. Grant, check your DMs. Okay, I will. Julian Serta says, is it possible we go for a wide receiver trade or free agent to help? Amari Cooper. I mean, there are wide receivers out there.
Gabe Davis came in for a workout. Mm-hmm. He's still out there unsigned. There'll be some good receivers cut for sure. I mean, there's a lot of talk out of Green Bay that Romeo Doubs was on the chopping block and could get cut, but then he showed up at minicamp, and according to the people I've talked to, Romeo Doubs looked awesome at minicamp, and so now maybe somebody else gets cut. Maybe Bo Melton. I mean, I think Green Bay is going to move off of a receiver this summer for sure.
They got a lot. Joseph Furriel says, thank you guys for nudging the Yorks to maximize this year. Florio making us aware of the new collusion case is just a reminder about capitalist greed. Yeah, well, you're welcome. Joseph Furriel says, my future Niner year will be imitation for the FUBU vibes of what the economy was meant to be. Keep them honest or expect us slaving for lithium. Joseph Furriel always has the deepest things to say.
It's
I appreciate
deep.
you.
That's deep, man. It might be too deep.
All right, on that note, let's do a little prize picks. Giants style. We got Giants at home against the Miami Marlins tonight. Let's start with Ramos, who is really one hell of a hitter. How about 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs? 1.5, more or less.
I love it. I love Ramos. Give me more. Give me more on Ramos. Ramos is looking really, really good. He's had some problems in the outfield, but man, he's looking good.
He has had some problems in the outfield. Jung-Hoo Lee been in a bit of a slump. What do you think about him? Jeez. Hits, runs, and RBIs 1.5, more or less.
Less. What's
wrong with Jung-Hoo?
I don't know. He's in a funk right now. He doesn't look good at the plate. He's you know what he's doing? He's not really getting the bat through the zone. He's just kind of waving it through the zone. This was a horrendous signing. I mean, let's be honest about this. I mean, everybody wasn't honest about this except for me at the time. I said you don't pay a guy like this $19 million a year. And that's what the Giants are paying him. 19. He's making $19 million a year. He's never going to hit 15 home runs. He's never going to steal 15 bases. And he's making $19 million a year. He's projected for 12 home runs, 70 RBIs, and he's hitting 253. So, I mean, this is a guy who has to hit. He's a good defensive center fielder, but he's got to hit 280. Because he's not a big power guy and he's not a big stolen base guy. And when he's hitting 250, man, he ain't really helping you. $19 million.
Logan Webb is a hell of a pitcher. What about 6 strikeouts for Logan Webb, more or less?
More.
Had 9
I like that. Yeah, I like Logan Webb. He goes tonight. He's looking good. Logan Webb is not the best pitcher in baseball by any stretch, but he's got a 2.49 ERA. It's like win day any day he pitches. What's the over under? Or what's the more or less?
More or less for Logan is 6 strikeouts.
Okay, so I'm looking at his game log for the year.
He had 9 strikeouts.
These are his
last
strikeouts
week against the Guardians.
These are his strikeouts in his last 2 months. These are his strikeouts: 9, 4, 10, 7, 10, 5, 4, 9, and 6. So, I mean, you said he needs how many?
6.
Yeah, I like more. I like
okay.
more.
What about Devers?
Especially against the Marlins.
Let's find one for Devers. Who's a better hitter, in your opinion, Devers or Ramos?
Devers.
No All doubt. Right. How about 0.5 singles? Will he get a single today?
Yes. I like that.
Why do you like Devers so much as a hitter? What do you like about
him? You know what? He's got 2 traits that are really, really good. One, he's got the bat speed to catch up to anybody's fastball, so he can hit anybody's fastball. Grant, this guy, you know, the league is littered with guys who throw 95 plus. This guy can hit velocity, right? So he can hit the fastball, but a lot of guys have to cheat to hit the fastball. This guy is a pure hitter because he's also on time on the breaking ball. So he's got the bat speed and the reactions to hit the fastest fastballs, but he's got the timing to hit anybody's breaking ball and to stay on it. So he's a really good, and if you look at his spray chart, which shows like kind of where the hits go, it's foul line to foul line. So he really does use the whole field. He's a professional hitter with power, but that I would say that's what makes him great. He's got the quick twitch to hit the fastest fastballs, but man, he is on time on the breaking ball.
Make your prize picks today. Download the app, use promo code COHN, play 5, win 50 in lineups instantly. All right, quiz for you. What is the thinnest position on the 49ers currently?
That is a really good question.
It's a tough one.
The thinnest position, I would say it's on the perimeter. It's either wide receiver or corner. Oof. You know, it's like, okay, so in the modern game, you always needed at least 5 good corners, right? In the modern game, most teams take, 10 DBs, and a lot of times they'll go 6 corners, 4 safeties. Well, who are the Niners' 6 corners? Renardo Green, 1. Diamador Lenore, 2. Upton Stout is going to make the team as a 3rd-round pick, number 3. They got to have 3 more guys. And Trey Avery, Trey Brown, Darrell Luter, Dallas Flowers, Saron Neal, Chase Lucas, Jacob Robinson, Derek Canteen. They got to find 3 good corners out of that secondary group. So I would say they're thin on the corner and they're thin at wide receiver. If you're leaning on Cowing, he's never done it. You're leaning on Watkins, he's a rookie, he's never done it. You're leaning on Pearsall, he's got 2 good games to his credit. You're leaning on JJ, who was a 7th-round pick 5 years ago. You're leaning on DeMarcus Robinson, who was a street free agent. He's not going to play the first 3 games. You're leaning on Junior Bergen, who's a return man from Montana State. I mean, that wide receiver core, there's not a lot there when you really dig deep. So I'll say wide receiver corner.
A lot of these positions are thin this year. That's a pretty top-heavy team. I'm going to go with the offensive line still. I mean, with Trent Williams out there and Dominic Pooney, it's not a terrible offensive line, but we're talking thin. They lost Aaron Banks. They lost Jalen Moore. And if Trent Williams gets hurt again, he misses a couple of games every year at least, going back to 2013. Their offensive line is Spencer Burford, Ben Barch, Jake Brendel, Pooney, and Colton McKivitz. That's scary. So I would say it's a borderline offensive line that got thinner from last year.
I like what I saw from Austin Pleasance. I kind of like what I saw from Connor Colby. Hennessy to me looks better than Brendel. So we'll see. I mean, I kind of think that their offensive line's not great, but I kind of like the backups a little bit more than I've liked them in the past. But, nominally, you're still looking at an offensive line where Ben Barch is your left guard. Great guy, but, I mean, he's had some injuries. Brendel's your center. There seemed to be a real split on what he is. McKivitz is your right tackle, and he doesn't make very much money. So, I mean, 3/5 of your offensive line.
It is Chris Forster, Kyle Shanahan against the world on that one. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they love their guys. I'll give them that. But I would say I like the depth a little bit more this year because I'm not. Jalen Moore was fun to talk to, but I kind of think Pleasance and Burford and Dillard might be an upgrade, and I've got good vibes about Hennessy and Connor Colby. We'll see. It's close. It's hardly an elite offensive line, that's for sure.
All right, let me ask you the opposite. What is the deepest position on this 2025 49ers roster?
I think they're really
be a tougher
deep.
Question.
Yeah, I think they're really, really deep in a couple spots. I think they're deep at linebacker. I mean, you got Fred Warner. I like what I've seen from D. Winters. I really think Nick Martin is something. Tatum Bethune, to me, is the guy, one of the guys I'm most eager to see. He looks so much faster to me. And then, I've heard good things about Chaz Surratt. And when I talked to Johnny Holland, he was like Stone Blanton is real, and he gets better and better and better every day. I mean, that's what he said about him. So I kind of like linebacker, and I kind of like the depth at running back. I really believe that Guerendo we could be headed for he could be a major bust out guy where it's like, it's not just the CMC show, that it's the CMC Guerendo duo. But I also like Jordan James and what I've seen from him. I really like Corey Kiner. I'm a big fan of Izzy Abanaconda. Juszczyk's been to a bunch of Pro Bowls. Taylor's a decent special teamer. I like their running backs and I like their linebackers.
That's a good one. I'm going to go with quarterback. I actually like their quarterback room. I mean, you got your starter in Brock Purdy. The backup has more starting experience than the starter. The backup was a first-round pick. He's still young. I mean, I think he's a good backup with potential to sort of have the Sam Darnold rebound. I don't know if he's as good as Sam Darnold, but that's an intriguing backup. And then after him, Tanner Mordecai looked good in preseason last year. And I'm really intrigued with, if I knew his name, Curtis Rourke, because there's two Rourkes. I like him. He's big. He's mobile. He seems like he has good anticipation and touch. I think they have a nice deep room of quarterbacks that all fit their system.
I think that's going to be really one of the more interesting positions to watch this summer. Why? Because Purdy's obviously the one. Rourke is obviously the 4 because he's going to redshirt because they're going to get him right. He played last year with an injured knee. They're going to do it. So he's going to be hurt all year. So Rourke is going to be the 4th guy. Purdy's obviously the 1 guy. But it's set up for Mac Jones to be the 2 and Mordecai to be the 3. But what happens if Mordecai badly outplays Mac Jones? In that scenario, I think Mac Jones is traded at the cutdown, and you see the 49ers find a 3rd quarterback somewhere else. I don't believe Mac Jones is going to be anything but the number 2 quarterback on this team. If he's number 2, it works. If he's number 3, he's traded. They're not going to pay Mac Jones $5 million a year plus to be the number 3 quarterback. So if Tanner Mordecai beats him out in practice, beats him out in the preseason, my bold prediction is Mac Jones is traded somewhere else.
And I wonder how much the 49ers base the competition on practice. I mean, if you're like really inaccurate, maybe you lose it in practice, but I think probably it's won or lost in games. I mean, we were there for Brock Purdy's rookie year. He didn't get a lot of opportunities in practice. I think where he made his impression was in the preseason. You could see oh, wait, hold on. If you were paying attention, he is mobile. He has this confidence. He has this moxie. He's leading the team. You couldn't see that in practice. I mean, that's where Tanner Mordecai is going to have a shot because in actual practices, they'll give him 2-3 throws and then it's on to Brock Purdy.
It's going to be really interesting because Matt Ryan year 1 compared to Matt Ryan year 2 was night and day. Jimmy Garoppolo year 1 compared to Jimmy Garoppolo year 2. I'm talking about in this Shanahan offense, night and day. Mac Jones is in year 1 in this offense. Tanner Mordecai's in year 2. Tanner Mordecai has got a lot more mobility. You always hear Shanahan in the past say, hey, I want a backup quarterback that has a similar skill set to my starter. Well, Tanner Mordecai has a similar skill set to Brock Purdy, much more so than Mac Jones. But I just think if Mac Jones shows something but gets beat out by Mordecai, I could see the Colts saying, hey, we'll take Mac Jones to back up Daniel Jones, and we're going to cut Anthony Richardson, or, we're going to do something like that. I could see it. I don't think the Niners will keep Mac Jones if he gets beat out by Mordecai. That being said, I think he'll get every opportunity to beat out Mordecai, and even if they're dead even, they'll give the job to Mac Jones. But if Mordecai clearly beats him out, Mac Jones is traded.
The quarterback I'm most interested in, the backup quarterback on the Niners I'm most interested in is Rourke. I mean, I know he may not play this year, but I still think he's got the most potential. We've seen Mac Jones. He can't really move. He's lost a lot of games. Tanner Mordecai is interesting. He's a little bit smaller, really good athlete, but I think Rourke's got a nice combination of the size and the mobility. I really want to see him eventually. Hopefully he gets to play a little bit in training camp. Probably not.
They think they stole him. And there's a great article out. I'm sure you probably saw it this week from Tony Pauline breaking down the Niners draft in Sportscada, which is some website. And I saw it on 49er Web Zone. There was a link to it. He loves Curtis Rourke and thinks that was a major steal. And the Niners, obviously, think about it this way. Curtis Rourke led the Indiana Hoosiers into the college football playoffs, playing the entire season on a knee that needed to be surgically reconstructed.
Rourke and C.J. West.
But, Curtis Rourke, to get to the college football playoff and to play that well, hurt shows that, you know what, this guy's got something. I'm really eager to see what he's got. They're going to give him the full redshirt year, but it'll be interesting to see if we get any glimpses this summer of him.
All right, it's time for me to go play some golf. You been playing golf recently?
Nice. No, but Kev just bought a brand new set of golf clubs. Got some pings. I didn't play golf back east, but you know what? I am going to play a few times between now and in the start of camp. Do you want to divulge where you're a Tilden guy?
I don't trust Niner fans. I don't but I'll be around. You might see me out there.
The guy who tried to pick off Trump is now, he's been detained. So maybe you don't want
I had that
guy
death threat in Indianapolis. So ever since then, I'm trying to.
Oh, that's right.
Silence.
That's right.
Anyway,
Grant will be playing golf somewhere.
I'll tell you about it in the future. Larry, good stuff. Everyone, thanks for watching on this June afternoon.